Hello everyone, my name is Rob, welcome to Kinetic Rugby League. In this video, I'm going to be giving you my tips and predictions for not just the Challenge Cup final, but also the one Super League game that's on this week, which is St Helens versus Huddersfield. So, without further ado, let's get started. So I'm actually just going to kick this off with the Super League game of St Helens at home against the Huddersfield Giants. I'm just going to run through this one as it's the only Super League game, and then we'll get started on the Challenge Cup final. So, St Helens currently are in 4th place, Huddersfield Giants in 10th place. Saints have won 4 in the last 5. Huddersfield have also won 4 in the last 5. For me, I do think Saints are still in the better position here. Huddersfield have actually won 4 in a row. And in terms of the opponents that they've faced, been fairly strong. And it's good to see from Huddersfield because on paper, they should be doing a lot better. And, you know, they are. They're picking up the wins. That's the most important thing. St Helens, for me, it's a tough one because I do like what Huddersfield's doing, but Saints are just, for me, always a little bit too strong. They can always control a game just well enough. They've got the individuals to kind of create something out of nothing. I do think there is a fair challenge to be had from Huddersfield this week, but it's nothing close enough to really push for a win. I think there's a good handful of points available. I think they will somewhat limit what St Helens can do because Saints haven't been perfect by any means. But I think there's at least a somewhat competitive game to be had here. So just to swiftly get through this one, I'm going to go with St Helens 22, Huddersfield Giants 14. Now moving on to the main event, the Challenge Cup final between the Leigh Leopards and the Kingston Rovers. I am going to be talking about away form in this, simply because both teams are essentially away. It's a neutral stadium, so I think away form in Super League is at least a good indicator of how this game could go, or is at least valuable enough insight into both teams. So starting with the Leigh Leopards, looking at Super League, because that is also relevant because they're both Super League teams. They currently sit in 3rd place on the ladder. They've played 21, won 14 and lost 7. They've scored 489 points, which is the 3rd best attack in Super League. They've conceded 359 points, which is the 4th best defence in Super League. Now, in terms of form, they've won 4 in the last 5. Now, taking a look at away form for the Leopards, they're actually 1st in Super League. They've won 8 and lost 4. In terms of away form, they've won 3 in the last 5, and their points difference is plus 64. So really, really strong from them. Looking at the run that they've had to the finals in the Challenge Cup, that includes Wakefield Trinity, York City Knights, and St Helens. So not an incredible, not an incredibly tough run, but St Helens was at least a big win and well deserved. So moving on to the Kingston Rovers, they currently sit in 6th place in Super League. They've played 21, won 11, lost 10. So that's 3 wins less than Leigh. They've scored 411 points, which is 7th best in Super League, and conceded 412 points, which is also 7th best in Super League. And they've also won 2 in the last 5. Looking at their away form, they're 6th in the league in away form. They've won 5 and lost 6. Their away form is actually 1 win in the last 5, and their points difference is minus 65. So not great in terms of away form from Kingston Rovers. In terms of their run to the final, it includes Batley Bulldogs, Salford Red Devils, and the Wigan Warriors. So again, not that strong overall. Batley, looking at Batley, Salford is a very strong win actually, and then Wigan is a strong win. So I guess you could say, on the face of it, Hull KR have had a much tougher run. Well, probably not much tougher, but they've had a slightly tougher run to the final. And this is kind of what goes into my prediction is, I think, on the face of it, I think Leigh Leopards are the better team. Simple as that. They're better in Super League. They've won more games. They've scored more points, conceded less points. They're on better form. And away from home, they're the best team in the league. Simple as that. So everything points towards Leigh. So I do think I'm going to probably edge it towards Leigh, but in terms of the score, and one thing I want people to consider, which most people will anyway, and Hull KR fans should consider this anyway, Hull KR have been incredibly resilient this year. Now, they started the season better than I expected. They had a little bit of a dip in form. I've repeated myself week after week. Had some injuries, but they started to deal with them really well. Brad Schneider's been a big help, helping them win, games back to back. He's extremely helpful. Hull KR have been dealing with the injuries well. They're starting to find a bit of a rhythm. Still not perfect, they're just getting there, but they have an incredible amount of resilience. Now, for this game, I think because both of these teams are kind of new to the Challenge Cup final scene, aside from Hull KR that made it in 2015, I want to say. 2015, Hull KR made the final. For me, I think this will be a very back and forth game for a lot of it. I think it could be something like 18-all at half time. I think both teams could really be going back and forth in this one. A lot of the times in these big games, it's really kind of slow. There's just a lot of game management. But for me, these are two exciting teams that will just go at each other. Where Leigh will find it... I think Leigh will find it fairly easy to score. They won't find much resistance from Hull KR. But Hull will, they'll kind of struggle, but they'll be chipping away. They'll stay in the game, they'll just be chipping away. And the points won't come as easy to Hull Kingston Rovers, but they'll find a way to get points because they've been such a resilient team this year. So, again, I do think there'll be an obvious gap in favour of the Leigh Leopards, but I'm not fully counting out Hull KR to come away with a win here. But Leigh are just the stronger team on paper. So, and even with a lot of Hull KR players being rested last week, I think that was just to avoid any, injuries and things like that. Not necessarily to avoid fatigue. I don't think any fatigue is going to be an issue for Leigh whatsoever. I think they'll actually benefit from having basically their full team this week. But I'm going to go with Leigh Leopards 32, Hull Kingston Rovers 24. So, that is going to be it for this video. If you have any predictions for the Challenge Cup final or the single Super League game this week, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know how you got on last week in Super League or the last Challenge Cup semi-final round. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.